40 years. Okay, that's actually true. Something that is possibly true, I will possibly turn 41. Trusting that on the way out tonight I don't get hit by a bus. Why is it always a bus? Or sometimes it's a truck.
It's usually a bus.
It is usually a bus.
I usually go a car.
Those bus drivers. Horrible people. Anyway, I know, right? Why couldn't I get run over by a moped and die a horrible death? Something necessarily true. 2 is the square root of 4. There's no way you can get around that. It's necessarily true. There's a necessity to it, okay? And then something that is necessarily false, like, I will become a velociraptor, which would be really cool, but not true, right? So that's modal logic, something that is actually true, possibly true, necessarily true, and necessarily false. Then we talked about change. We talked about being something that is, and then something that has to change the thing that is, and then the potential of that is to change into. In other words, I won't become a velociraptor, but I might grow gray hair. Okay, so I already do. But you get the idea? So the change in me will not be that I grow scales and fangs and really cool claws. The change in me will be that I grow old, trusting that I continue to live. One of the things we talked about with that too, remember we talked about the Play-Doh snowman? We said, okay, who was it that I brought up for that? I can't. Joe, yeah, I brought Joe up and I was like, all right, Joe, make a snowman. And he's like, with what? And I said, just make it happen. And he's like, I can't do that. Because he needed something to change. Then I grabbed Play-Doh. Play-Doh. And I said, okay, Play-Doh, change into the shape of a snowman. And lo and behold, the Play-Doh did not change on its own, right? And so I said, hey Joe, how about you make me a really, really bad snowman? And he did make a really bad snowman. It was fairly awful. So the idea behind that is that in order for something to change, there has to be something, and then there has to be a change agent into it. And the conclusion of all that is that a cause without an effect is an absurdity, and an effect without a cause is an absurdity. So when you look at us as finite beings, as small things, we realize there had to be something bigger, something infinite that would make us happen, right? And I trust you guys are opening the scriptures that we're not opening right now. Okay, so we talked about finite and infinite. We are finite. We need something to cause us. Ooh, did I put this in a different spot? I did, I think. Sorry. No, I didn't. Okay. We need something to cause us, and we go on. Okay, then we talked about every religion being equal. In other words, every religion should be able to just go to one big worship house and worship together. And that's where we get these ideas of like coexist, right? We get the idea that like Islam, Buddhism, Science, Judaism, and we put these on, and these are again, I'm not saying these signs don't work. They can't work. Well, why not, Pastor Jack? Well, Islam declares that there is no God except Allah, and Muhammad is God's messenger. Buddhism says we don't believe in gods because gods come from fear. Judaism says there will be no other Torah, not the Quran, no other Torah, nor the New Testament, no other Torah, and that the Messiah will come. Islam doesn't believe in the Messiah, but they believe in God. Judaism says the Messiah is coming, he will be God, and that the only scripture that he has is the Torah, but Islam has the Quran, and Christians have the Bible. Paganism is polytheistic, means that they have a ton of gods. Wiccan we talked about very shortly, and none of us understood that. And then Mormonism actually says that God was once a man who lived on another planet. And that is straight from a Mormon website of important doctrines in the Mormon church. So you look at that and we say, people say, well, you should just all get together, you should all coexist, you should worship your God in any way that you want under one house. Well, the problem is you can't really do that. And what the person with that bumper sticker on, with this bumper sticker on is saying is, I know how to do things and you don't. So all of you people that worship all these gods, you should only worship the way I tell you to worship. Which is an arrogant statement, and it's an unfair statement. It's a statement that assumes that they know more than every religion that's out there. And so when you interact with somebody and say, well, why can't you all just get along? The answer to that is, it's impossible. We believe different things. That's like saying that you and I should go to the same place and you should not worship God while I worship God at the same time. And they would say, oh, that's stupid, right? Well, it's the same idea. It's the same idea here. Then we talked about the people that use this diagram, and they say all you people that are looking at religion, you're actually. Can you toss me that water?
Yep.
Excuse me. Just throw it. They'll say, oh, you people that are into religion, you're all basically into the same thing, but you just look at it differently. Like one of you saying the elephant's nose is a snake. The other one saying that the elephant's a spear because it's touching tusk. One saying it's a rope because it's touching the tail, and et cetera, right? What is the assumption with the person who is saying that all religions are looking at a small picture? What is the assumption? Is that they what? They see the whole picture, but you don't. Again, there's this assumption that their view is greater than your view. And the truth is, that is simply equally, I want to say this right. They would accuse you of being arrogant for believing that God is the one and only true God. But a statement like that, or a statement like to coexist, is equally arrogant if we're talking about something that is untrue. Does that make sense? So, I don't want to point a finger and say they're arrogant, because the truth is, in that sense, I kind of am too, because I believe in the one and only true God. I believe there's one creator God who sustains the universe, and I believe there's only one way to get to heaven, which is single-minded and arrogant if you don't believe that. But it's no less than the person who says that I'm just looking at the rope when it's really a tail of an elephant. Okay, so that's that. Okay, so we're going to talk about the sectarian violence of religion today. And you're like, Steve is like, I need more coffee. He's just looking at me like, seriously, he's sitting there with his coffee like, sectarian. What do you think of when I say sectarian?
It's a
Secretariat, right?
It's a government that's under rule of the religion.
Okay. There are people who would say that those of us who would desire to see our religious affections enter into the political world, that we are sectarian. Here's what that means. That means, let's say I wanted to be a congressman, and I ran, and everybody voted for me because I have yellow teeth. And that was my voting platform, right? And I get to Congress. There are many who would argue that my faith can never enter into my decision making. That would make me sectarian. That would mean that I'm separating myself from the rest of the world, okay? And those same people, I want to be careful, many people would say that Christianity is a violent religion, or religion is violent. Have you ever heard that most of the violence in the world would be removed if we just got rid of religions? Have you guys heard that?
Yeah.
Okay, I got a great statistic for you on that one. Got a great statistic. Intelligent, well-learned people say that thing, and it's just not true. Okay, so, no, that's not the right spot. This is the right spot. Okay. Let me just figure out that. Religion is culturally... There, everyone's in the right spot. Okay. Religion is culturally and historically conditioned. Here's what they are saying. All moral and spiritual claims are based on cultural connection. In other words, Kyle, the only reason that you're a Christian is because you grew up in America in a Christian home. That's the only reason you believe in God. That's the assertion by these folks that would say that Christianity is a sectarian and violent religion. Okay? The observable reality of that. We're going to get through this relatively quickly, right? We're going to go kind of walk through a thing. We tend to think like those we most admire and those we most need. Jeremy, what got you into the whole like camo thing? Seriously, and the boots and everything. What got you into that? I think I know the answer, and I'm asking on purpose.
The ranch.
The ranch. Are there people that you admire and respect there?
Yes.
Is that a place you like being? Okay. So I want you to see that this is an observable reality. You have a kid that grew up in South Jersey. Now, a little bit out in the sticks, but not exactly a horse farmer, right? But he goes to this ranch, and at the ranch, he falls in love with the people, with the place, with the ideals, and it affects a big portion of who he is, right? Does that make sense? You see that. You'll see that with an Anglo kid in an inner city. An Anglo kid in an inner city will often really be in the hip hop culture. You know what I'm saying? And we have awful, horrible words for that. But the reality is, it's an Anglo kid in the inner city. Just like Jeremy likes to go to the ranch, that kid has some things like basketball and sneakers and I don't know, what are those earphones that everybody wears now? Beats, yeah, like those things are important. So we look at a kid like that and we say, oh, how can they wear that? And we're wearing cowboy boots that like cost the same, or we're wearing running shoes that cost the same, right? So our culture affects us. It affects the way we think. The people that are important to us, the places that we live are important. We cannot say, however, okay, this is where it's important. This is where when you have a friend walk up to you and say, the only reason you believe in God is because you come from a Christian home. You cannot say all truth is relative to anything, because that's a truth claim that contradicts itself. All truth is relative. It's saying that 100% of the time, this is a complete truth statement. Truth is relative. It's based on, it changes. So what you're saying is, the only true statement in the whole world is this statement. All other truth statements are not true. They are relative. But this one is not relative. Do you see how that works? You can say, God is the creator of the universe. And someone can say, that's your truth, but that's not my truth, because all truth is relative. Well, then you just made a truth claim too. Does that make sense? So your truth claim and their truth claim stand on equal grounds, essentially. But oftentimes what happens is the person that is contradicting your truth claim, that I worship the one and only God of the universe, they will look down on your truth claim because they are holding so fast to this truth claim that's counterintuitive. It's actually a backward thought. It's a thought that shoots itself in the leg. Okay? So I think it's important that you understand that. I'm not killing anybody for this. I'm just saying that in complete, absolute logic, you cannot say that all truth is relative, because that would be a relative statement that is changeable. Okay? Which would mean that there's opportunity to have truth. We cannot sit behind, do I have this? Yeah. We cannot sit behind truth cannot be knowable. There are people that say that all the time, guys. Do not allow yourself or anybody else to sit behind that statement. People will tell you, well, you just can't know truth. Now, where do we believe truth comes from? Okay, this. This is truth. There are other truths. In other words, the square root of 4, is that in here? No. Is that a biblical concept? No. Is it true? Yeah. Okay. So there are other truths, but they're all God-ordained truths, and we know that. And then there is this truth that is God's truth that is spoken to us. People will hide behind, truth can't be known, but we, in lieu of just saying, oh, you can't know it, forget about it, I don't care. You've got to engage some questions here. with your friends. What affirmations about God, about human nature, and spirituality are true and which are false? Give me an affirmation about human nature that the church gives you, and an affirmation about human nature that the world gives you. Okay? Let's go there for just an easy example. Give me an affirmation about the human nature that the church would give you.
All are sinful.
Okay, so we would say, because the Bible says it, that all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. Okay? Everybody's messed up, right? What does the world say? We're basically good people, and if we go bad, it's because we come from a what? Bad environment. Because we come from a bad environment. The struggle with that is that doesn't ring true all the time. Are there people from suburban America that kill people? Are there rich people that do criminal acts? They're in the right environments, right? The right environments. Are there are there mafia Amish people apparently? Right? I saw that commercial, right? I mean, what better environment do you want than that? And yet we still mess up. So what we have to do is we have to say, okay, what is the world saying? What is the world affirming about God? What is the world affirming about human nature? What is the world affirming about spirituality? And what do we affirm about those things? Okay, so that's the first one. Next one, we're gonna fly through. Religious is culturally and historically conditioned. I would strongly argue that it is not, and I would strongly argue that argument shoots itself in the leg. Religious belief and proselytization is arrogant. Now, tell me what proselytization is. Anybody over there? Any of my older couch over there? What's that? Making disciples. All right? It's telling other people about your faith so that they become a faith follower too. It's evangelism. It's what, all right, who knocks at your door? Who knocks at your door in a white shirt, black pants, black tie, and a backpack? Jehovah's Witnesses. We all know them, right? There are many people that would say that what the Jehovah's Witnesses are doing is arrogant to do that. It's arrogant. And to even have religious belief is arrogant. So their assertion is this: all religious claims to have a better view of things are arrogant and wrong. If you believe that your religion is better than other religions, or better than other belief systems, then you are arrogant and wrong. The observable reality. The idea that it is wrong to complain or to claim that one's culture and religion is the best is rooted in Western traditions of self-criticism and individualism. In other words, if you go to Japan or China or Indonesia and you ask them, which culture is better, America or Indonesia, America or Japan, America or China, do you know what they will say? They will say their own culture. They will say, ours is so much better. You guys are all messed up. They say it all the time. Why? Because they believe that. That's why their culture is the way their culture is. It's very American, very Western, very European to say, well, we need to look through things through an ethnocentric viewpoint, or through a non-ethnocentric viewpoint. What's ethnocentrism? Anybody?
Loyalty to your ethnicity.
Yeah, it's basically saying like, okay, I'm going to put my American goggles on and I'm going to look at everything through my American goggles. For example, in China, they eat... That's like an American way. No, they eat...
Grandmother's saying.
No, they eat like these things from the ocean,
Sushi.
uncooked.
That's Japan.
Japan, China does it too. Yeah, right? So they eat these things and they're like, oh, it's wonderful. and yeah, like squid, but like uncooked, like they're squiggling still. And we look at that and we're like, oh, that's so what? Gross, disgusting, right? Fear Factor was a show on the TV years ago And one of the things they did was they just said, okay, what do other cultures eat that America's going to think is gross? And they made those people eat those things. I mean, they ate gross things to me, but that's such an American thing. And so we're looking at reality through this American lens, and we're saying, listen, it's arrogant for you to believe anything that you believe is better than anything else. Here's the struggle with that. When we say that when we say that any exclusive claims to a superior knowledge of God or spirituality are false, it's an exclusive claim that God is unknowable, God is loving but not wrathful, He'll never send anybody to hell, and God is an impersonal force. That's what they're saying. They're saying, hey, listen, you can believe in God, but you have to believe in this God. Because if you believe in a God that is personal, and that has shown Himself to mankind, and that has come to earth and died and resurrected and desires to bring you back one day, then that is not fair to everybody else. That's what they're saying. So they're saying that you can't believe your truth claim, you have to believe what? Our truth claim. Okay? Last thing. Religion should be completely private. In other words, you can believe whatever you want. Well, let's say it this way. Any discourse in the public square should be void of a person's religious ideology. Again, if I became a senator or a congressman or the president of the United States, I could never base a decision on my religious viewpoint. I would have to simply make a logical decision, right? The assertion here, the second assertion, religious-based positions are seen as controversial, even discriminatory now, while humanistic reasoning for moral positions are seen as universal and available to everybody. In other words, a humanist would say, my position is everybody's position, and your position is wrong. Doesn't that sound like the very thing that they're fighting against? Again, they keep inverting the argument, and in the process doing the same thing they're saying that we are doing as believers. Observable reality. Religion is a set of beliefs that explains the meaning of life, who we are, and those things that are most important. These things can't be left at the front door for the religious. They have to enter everything you do. Listen, if you are a child of God, that relationship with God has got to enter every part of your life. It explains also that humanism is a religion. It worships humanity. Okay? And last thing. Do I have this up? Yeah. Arguing that religion should be left at the door of public or political life is just as sectarian as being religious. It is saying that my belief is right and yours is wrong and it's bad for everybody. Do you see that? Now, do I believe that about my faith? I do. I make no bones about it. I believe that everybody should come to a saving knowledge of Jesus Christ. And if I'm standing next to a humanist, he's going to say, I believe he's whacked and everybody else should believe he's whacked. We're believing basically the same thing, and that is that we're both right. Does that make sense? I believe I'm right. He believes he's right. The problem is, guys, humanism is winning in this way right now. They're saying, you can't believe what you believe because it's arrogant, but I can believe what I believe. So when you have that discussion with your friends, ask them why it is that you have to believe what they believe. And why it is that they can't believe what you believe. It's basically the same thing. I read this article today by a Jewish rabbi that I strongly disagreed with. But he makes this statement. And this is historical, so it's factual. He says this: when I hear someone state that religion has caused most wars, though, I often ask the person to name these wars. The responses typically come: the Crusades, the Inquisition, Northern Ireland, the Middle East, 9/11. Need I name more? That's usually the answer he gets back. Well, yes, we do need to name more, because while clearly these were wars that had religions as prime causes, an objective look at history reveals that those killed in the name of religion have in fact been a tiny fraction of the bloody history of human conflict. In their recent published book, Encyclopedia of Wars, authors Charles Phillips and Alan Axelrod, I want his last name, document the history of recorded warfare. And from their list of 1,763 wars, 1,763 wars over the time, only 123 have been classified to involve a religious cause. 1,763 wars, 125 of them were of a religious nature, okay? This accounts for less than 7% of all wars. Less than 7% of all wars. And less than 2% of all people killed in warfare. For example, it is estimated that approximately 1 to 3 million people were tragically killed in the Crusades, and perhaps 3,000 in the Inquisition. Yet nearly 35 million soldiers and civilians died in the senseless and secular slaughter of World War I alone. Here's the point that I'm trying to make to you guys. We feel, as Christians, when we have these interactions with people and they begin throwing fodder at us, as Christians, we get on the defensive, right? Like, I don't know how to defend. I guess every war has been religious. Oh, I guess it is arrogant for me to think that I should bring my beliefs into somebody else's life. Well, number one, it's a false fact. 7% of all wars, 2% of all human death, in war, has come as a result of religious. That's a hard fact. Number two, when somebody tells me that I can't believe what I believe because it's narrow-minded, they are being what? Narrow-minded. So it's easy to say, hey, listen, I appreciate that you don't like my religion. I appreciate that you don't love God or believe in Him. But for you to say that it's narrow-minded for me to do that is a narrow-minded statement. You're accusing yourself because you're asking me to believe exactly what you believe. Guys, I want to give you strength not to get in an argument and punch a guy in the face, right? Like, don't do that. But to be able to say, listen, that argument doesn't really work because you're fighting against yourself when you make that argument. So if you don't want me to share the gospel with you, I'll stop. I don't have a problem with that. But don't say that what I'm doing is narrow-minded, because the way you approach it is narrow-minded to me. So it's it's a contradictory statement. Any questions before we're done? I know that's a lot, right? You guys, and I know it's a late night. And you guys, your bodies will get used to it. All right, let's pray and then we'll head out of here. Lord God, you're good. Thank you for tonight. Thank you for these students. I pray, God, that